Hi mate, how you doing? Long time no hear. No, I'm not shooting. I've finished. Camera's off. You're gonna what? You're gonna leave London, come and live in Thailand, and become an English teacher? You've got to be crazy, man. Welcome to paradise. It's a very green day here in Chatuchak Park, and I'm a bit disappointed today because I forgot my basket case. I was hoping to do a bit of flower picking, but I've just noticed a sign anyway. It says no flower picking. But you're not here to listen to poor quality puns about rock bands. You're here because you want to know how to live and teach English in Thailand. Why would you want to teach English here? Surely there are more lucrative opportunities around Asia. Well, there could be a number of reasons why. The people, the food, the culture, the weather, the cheap cost of accommodation and getting around, the cheap cost of eating out. Or if you're a guy, maybe you've just met a girl online or recently on holiday and you want to come and live here long term to support her and her family maybe, and you'll do whatever it takes. Those are the usual reasons. So let's look at some general information that would be useful for you to know before you decide on coming here to teach English or not. And these are bits and pieces of info I've got from a website called ajarn.com. Now that is the #1 teaching site in Thailand. Ajarn is Thai word for teacher. And they've got a whole load of resources on there, definitely worth looking at. I'll leave a link in the description, of course. Anyway, if you're thinking of coming to teach here, I'm assuming you've done a TEFL course or Teaching English as a Foreign Language certificate. That is the basic thing required. And a lot of job advertisers will specify that they prefer that you've done the course in person, in a classroom and not online. You can do it online, and a lot of people get away with it because when you go to job interviews, they don't always look so closely at your certificate. I will recommend the TEFL Academy in Chiang Mai because they are accredited by the Thailand Ministry of Education. So if you're thinking of doing your course in Thailand, then that's one of the go-to places. Some other info. If you're a non-native English speaker, you need a TOEIC score of 600 plus or an IELTS score of 5 plus. And I'll give you some facts about getting a teaching job in Thailand here. Let's start with #1. Teachers with degrees will find work much easier than those without. Doesn't mean you can't find a job if you don't have a degree. #2, English native speakers will generally find work easier than non-native speakers. But the key word here is generally. Doesn't mean you're not going to find work. Much depends on where you're applying for a job. #3, teachers with experience will generally find it easier to get work than those without, which is pretty obvious why, but doesn't mean, again, that you're not going to find work if you haven't got experience. Some agencies advertise for teachers who are freshly graduated from their TEFL course, so look out for those. #4, younger teachers generally find it easier to get teaching work than older teachers. They often put an age limit on job ads, which is a bit ageist, I know, but that's how it is sometimes. So there's a bit of a summary for you. There is an old joke. What characteristics do you need to get an English job in Thailand? And they used to say that if you had white skin, a white shirt and a pulse, then you'd walk into any job anywhere. But employers are a bit more discerning these days. And there are some characteristics that I think you should be ticking boxes on because they're quite important, of course. Do you perform well at job interviews? Are you good at making a first impression? CV, cover letter, dress sense, appearance. Appearance is all the rage here in Thailand. So the better you look, the more likely you are to be employable, of course. Do you get on well with people? Are you a good team player? Do you have a good sense of humour and a go with the flow personality? And do you have some savings behind you, which is quite important because it might take some time to find that first teaching job. Okay, time to get a bit serious now. Finding work in Thailand. And the first place I'd recommend is online. Google, type in teaching jobs in Thailand and see what comes up. A few jobs will come up immediately, plus there'll be a few links. And usually the top one is ajan.com. They are the go-to place for teaching jobs. They get posted every single day directly by employers and agencies, and you can even upload your CV there if you wish. If you're a bit sensitive about data and personal information, then it probably isn't a good idea. Boots on the ground is another good idea as well. Get out and about with your CV, hand it out at schools, go to language centres, give them your CV. Often language centres are constantly looking for teachers. You could get lucky that way. And Facebook groups as well. Definitely worth looking on there. There are jobs posted on a daily basis by employers as well, and you can send a private message to them. So there are plenty of resources for finding work. Those who don't spend a lot of time in Bangkok and have never really lived here for a long period of time probably hate this city, and I don't blame them. But if you're a city person who's used to the hustle and the bustle and the noise and the constant activity, then Bangkok will take a bit of getting used to, but it's no different to a lot of Asian cities. I mean, if you're coming here from, say, New Delhi, then it's a bit of peace and quiet for you. Anyway, living in Bangkok, there's 3 levels we're going to go through, and the first level is renting somewhere to live in the budget bracket of 4 to about 6,500 a month. I'm going to show you what you could get. I've come to an area that is typical of urban Bangkok, just away from the centre, but not too far into the suburbs. I've come to Sutizan, and I'm going to give you a quick example of what you'll get for about 4 to 6,500 baht a month. Across the road here, a building like that would probably set you back around 5,000 baht a month. They got small balconies, air conditioning, laundry downstairs. If you went down some of the side sois, you would find similar buildings, some big, some small. The smaller buildings would probably have smaller rooms, around 20 square meters, and the bigger buildings would probably go up to about 25 square meters. Prices would be between 4 and 6,000 baht. If you had 2 or 3,000 baht a month to your rent budget, then you'll probably get a place like that, with modern facilities, a swimming pool, a gym, proper security, and it will definitely raise your standard of living. Well, if you're sitting at home and you haven't arrived in Thailand yet, and the thought of living in an area like this fills you with absolute horror, then do not fear. There are thousands of neighbourhoods all over Bangkok to choose from. I'm just using this as an example. And in the last 200 metres, I've counted 5 or 6 places that would cater for your street food needs. There's a 7-Eleven, there's a few coffee shops as well. And let's not forget, this is Thailand, where the people are very hospitable. I'm in La Prao, and I thought this is a good example of an area where there are places to rent in the medium budget range of 6,500 to 10,000 baht a month in an area that is well linked to all transport, shopping, eating and drinking. I've covered this area in a video recently as well, so if you want to have a look at it in more detail, I suggest you check out the video La Prao. Anyway, let's have a walk around. Well, it goes to show that just adding 2,000 or 3,000 baht a month to your rent budget gets you a choice of places that are more attractive looking, better kept, better facilities in an area like this where there are side streets off the main road where you actually get a bit of peace and quiet, unlike Sutizan, for example. Well, they say Bangkok is the Venice of the East. Regardless of whatever condition the water's in, it still qualifies as a canal, I suppose. And I'm sure Venice doesn't have every single canal in the city in pristine condition with clear, drinkable running water. Anyway, this is one of many areas with the characteristics I described earlier. Quiet side streets, lots of trees, lots of greenery, birds singing, nice looking buildings that all fit in to the medium rental budget range of 6,500 to 10,000 baht a month. Now, I'm going to link a website in the description, and that website is called Rent Hub. On the first page of that website, you get a map of the urban rail system of Bangkok, and you can click on a station and browse whatever buildings are available to rent in that area. La Prao is of course well connected to all modes of transport, parks, markets, shopping, eating, drinking, everything you need to live a very fulfilling life as a teacher here in Bangkok. So you've got a rent budget of above 10,000 baht a month. That's great. That's more than quite a few teachers already living and working here can afford. But what would the maximum amount be if you're earning 45 to 50,000 baht a month? I think you could safely go up to about 17,000. So a budget range like that will give you a huge choice of places to browse when you're looking online for places to live. It'll also give you the luxury of browsing high-rise, brand new condos. And of course, high-rise means a lot less noise problems. But as with any area you're looking in for somewhere to live, it's definitely worth going back there at night, because you never know what will happen once the sun goes down. Will it turn into party central? Will there be motorbikes racing up and down the street outside? So that's something to think about. The last thing you want when you've got to get up in the morning for a class is having trouble getting to sleep. Well, is there anything I've missed in this guide to rent budgets here in Bangkok? Any hidden charges? Well, I was going to mention security deposits anyway. Most places will ask for 3 months in advance. Maybe some of the cheaper options might ask you only for 2 months, but it's a good idea to have 3 put by just in case. All places will ask for a couple of hundred baht in key money and electricity. If you're renting directly from the office of a building, they may well hike the charge up 1 or 2 baht per unit. Water will be considerably more. But if you're renting places directly from an owner, then you'll get charged the government rates, which is slightly cheaper. Question that always comes up is, can I work in Thailand without a degree? The answer is yes, but you won't have the top choice of the top jobs with the best pay. And the degree is required for the work permit process. So technically, no degree, you will be working illegally. But this is Thailand and there are ways around everything. I'm not advocating illegal behaviour, but it does go on. Teacher salaries haven't really gone up much over the last 15 years. So if you're just arriving here with no experience and no degree, you can expect to be earning between 30 and 35,000 baht a month. If you're a non-native speaker, then you might get offered as little as 20,000 baht a month. It's worth being patient and looking around for the right job, because you might be able to talk your way into something with a bit more money. Language schools normally pay by the hour. Some offer as little as 250 baht an hour, others up to 500 baht an hour. Now, corporate teaching is something you'll probably get into as you gain more experience, and it can be quite lucrative, offering anything from 500 baht an hour up to well over 1,000 baht an hour. So there's an idea of what you can earn as a teacher here. Random tip number 1, go into the job interview. Now, I can't advise you on what to say or how to get the job. That is of course down to you. But I can suggest ways that you can look smarter. And that is smart business attire.
well groomed, nicely ironed, sharp creases, smart shoes, well polished of course. Resist the temptation to have a cigarette before you go in, even if it is to calm your nerves. I know it sounds harsh, but the smell will put off any interviewers. Ditto alcohol, ditto strong perfume. Body odour is a complete no-no. Make sure you have a shower before you leave home in the morning. And that is about it.
So if you pass an interview, you may be asked to do a demo class, which can be a bit daunting if you're a new teacher who's just done the TEFL course with no classroom experience, but there's lots of tips on YouTube how to prepare for a demo class. I think the trick is to establish a good rapport with the students, speak clearly, be engaging, and it's a good chance to prove yourself as well. So what kind of classes can you expect to be teaching if you work in a school? Most schools have something called an English program or a gifted program. That is split into two categories, reading and writing, listening and speaking. And just because it's called an English program doesn't mean you're only going to be asked to teach English. They might ask you to teach physics, chemistry, social studies, because they offer those courses in English as well, so be prepared for that. Language schools usually follow textbooks depending on the level of the student and how often they come to study, and you'll be expected to cover a certain amount of chapters in that textbook within the hours that the student is coming to study. A lot of language schools also offer test preparation. You might get students who are coming to do what's called an IELTS test or a TOEIC test or a TOEFL test, and these are tests they need to do if they want to go and work or study abroad. So it's worth brushing up on your skills when it comes to those test preparation courses. A quick word about class preparation. If you're working full-time in a school, the workload is going to be quite intense. Obviously, the more classes you have, the more preparation you'll have to do, the more marking, the more lesson plans, the more mid-term and end-of-term tests you'll have to prepare. So just stay focused, organised, keep to deadlines, don't be tempted to put stuff off till tomorrow, otherwise you'll find yourself stressed out. Language schools, preparation for classes, a little bit less intense. You'll probably be following a textbook, but it's always good to keep up to date with worksheets. There's a very good website called ISL Collective where they have all the latest worksheets and you can download them. So I'll leave a link to that in the description. Corporate classes, again, similar to language school classes, stay focused, stay organised, keep up to date, do your research, and you should be okay. Random tip number 2, invest in a colour printer. 4,000 baht will revolutionise your class preparation. I've been to many different places where photocopiers are out of order, or photocopiers are running low on ink, or they use cheap ink and the copies and the prints look awful. They got lines down the middle of them, they're grey and they're smudged. And also it's bad enough that you're photocopying pages from textbooks, which is pretty difficult to make them look presentable. You're photocopying photocopies of worksheets. There are websites where you can download all the latest worksheets. There are websites where you can download PDF copies of all the commonly used textbooks in schools here. So definitely worth looking into. A small investment to make, but very well worth it. Teaching English here is a great way to make friends and meet like-minded people. You'll meet other teachers from different backgrounds, different cultures, different nationalities, all with the same common aim, and that is to teach English here. So it's a great outlet for social interaction. Over the years, there have been quite a few light-hearted stereotypes of the kind of people who come to teach English here. So in your teaching travels, you may meet a few of these. Teaching in Thailand is far from perfect. There's always downsides, and I've got a list here of red flags taken from ajan.com. And let's get straight into number one. Now, there's quite a few agencies and schools that don't pay teachers for school holidays. So when the kids are off school, you don't get paid, which I think is pretty unacceptable. It's a practice that is happening more and more these days as agencies and schools try and claw back as much money as they possibly can from the teacher's salary. If you're organised and have savings, then it may not be a problem, but if you're living month to month, then it could prove a bit tricky when the school holidays start. Schools that don't provide a basic healthcare package, if you sign a contract with a school, they should at least have a basic policy in place in case anything goes wrong. And the trick is to keep on top of it, because it'll take a while to process the paperwork. And 5 months into a semester, if they still haven't come up with a card, it's worth asking about it, because the chances are you may well come to the end of semester and find out that you never had a policy in the first place. Number of teaching periods per week. I think the acceptable number would be between 16 and 18. That's manageable. You've got class prep, test prep for midterm and end of term, and it can mount up. You know, you find yourself working on the weekend, especially when testing comes. But it's not unusual for some teachers to be doing 24 periods a week, and you know, some days that's could be 6 or 7 classes a day, and that is very exhausting. So before you sign any contract, make sure you're clear with the school about the number of teaching periods. Gate duty doesn't look like much fun. Luckily I haven't done it, but I know many teachers who have had to do it, and it involves getting to school a lot earlier than normal and standing at the gate smiling, weighing parents and kids as they come in. And basically it's just the school's way of showing off their foreign teachers, so it's very important that you dress the part as well for that. Schools that don't have air conditioning, believe it or not, in this day and age that is still an issue. And it's okay if you prefer it that way, some teachers do. It can get pretty hot under the collar standing up in class in front of 40 kids. And if they get a bit difficult, you might get a bit flustered and break a sweat. And if they don't have air conditioning, it probably means they have fans on the ceiling. And if you've got a pile of worksheets, then it might be an idea to bring a paperweight as well. Schools and agencies do take advantage of non-native English speakers, and this reflects in salaries. And over the years I've met quite a few native English speakers who couldn't string a sentence together, never mind teach a class English. And I've also met several non-native English speakers who are fantastic teachers. This is an ongoing issue that I can't see being resolved, to be honest with you. Whiteboard markers, bring your own. Buy a good quality brand and keep them with you at all times, because a lot of places do provide them, but they're not in great condition. They're often out of ink. I remember working at a school that had a whiteboard system where if you used a regular whiteboard marker, it would stain it. And so the markers that the school provided were pretty poor. Every time you topped it up with ink, for the last 10 or 15 minutes of a lesson, you couldn't write anything on the board because the ink ran out. So that's not a very common thing, but just something I thought I'd share. Bring your own whiteboard markers. Well, that just about wraps up our look at the whole teaching game here in Thailand. I hope you found this video informative, interesting, useful, and I hope you found a few tips and ideas you can keep in mind if you're thinking of taking the plunge. If you want to work out some kind of cost of living budget, there's plenty of videos on YouTube, and for further reading I've left a few links in the description to a few websites that are definitely worth looking at. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you want to like, share and comment, feel free. If you want to support the channel, you can make a donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. That just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and until the next one, I will see you soon.